Hi, let's find out what is the difference between the tropical and the sidereal zodiac. The sidereal zodiac is used in the East by Vedic astrology mostly, and the tropical is used in the West by Western astrologers. It's based on the Western esoteric school. It's approximately appeared around the beginning of, started being used very, very popularly 2,000 years ago with the coming of Christ, from the New Age. And what are the two zodiacs? What's the difference? They both have the same 12 signs, but they're not at the same place. So if in India you're born on the 30th, and on the say 15th of or say the 10th of April, in the West you'll be an Aries, but in the East you'll be a Pisces. Why is the difference? And that's why astrology has been poo-pooed, because they're saying it's the constellations are not the same as the signs, so astrology is not true. It's not that actually, because in the West we're basing our astrology on the zodiac on different principles. And let me explain to you. In the East, they actually, the sidereal astrology that they're using is based on the real stars, on the stars and the constellations. The ones that the astronomers, constellations, the ones that the astronomers use, heaps of stars together that they make a animal or whatever, they make Aries, Taurus, and these are constantly, actually, not constantly, very slowly, but they're changing. For instance, if the year 2000, no, the year 00, at the beginning of our century, at the beginning of our age, 2,000 years ago, when the sun was rising in spring, it's always how it's measured. The sidereal zodiac is the sunrise at spring. What is the backdrop? At what constellation is it rising? So at the backdrop of the sun, there was Aries. You could see the stars of Aries when the sun was rising on the on the first day of the spring, on the 21st of March, 2,000 years ago. The sun was rising in the backdrop of Aries. So it was, but now, 2,000 years later, say the year 2000, when you look when the sun is rising on the 21st of March, the first day of spring, is not Aries, it's Pisces. You see the stars of Pisces at the backdrop of the sun, because this is the constellations of Pisces. This is not the sign of Pisces as we're using in the Western astrology. It's the constellation of Pisces. And those constellations, the constellations that make up the 12, the zodiac of the Eastern astrology, the sidereal astrology, as they call it, they mark the big ages in humans' history. Every about 2,100 years, sometimes more, sometimes less, a different age comes, which is measured by the backdrop of which constellation is the sun on the first day of spring rising up. And they're saying that we're going into the age of Aquarius. Very soon, the sun, when you're looking at the sun on the 21st of March, it will be rising at the backdrop of the stars of Aquarius, of the constellation of Aquarius. And it will continue for about 2,000 a few hundred years. And the constellations, they define the big clock for humanity, the big ages. But there is an interesting thing. They're not directly influencing human life. They're influencing the big consciousness changes that are happening, the big ages, the age of Aquarius. I'll talk separately about the age of Aquarius in another video, so you can see how they influence the religions, the mentality of humanity, the consciousness of humanity. For instance, in the age of Aries, which was 2,000 years, started 4,000 years ago, continued for 2,000, the mentality of warlike qualities was developed. The religions that were much more warlike and masculine-like religions were developed. Then came the age of Pisces, with which came Christianity, which was about giving and receiving. All of this I would explain. And now will come Aquarius, which is intellectual understanding and higher knowledge that is coming for us. But those constellation horoscope, the zodiac of the constellations determines the big ages. But what happens is that there is a hermetic saying in esoteric in esoteric. Hermes gave it thousands of years ago, and it's one of the laws in the universe. As above, so below. So anything which is above as a pattern, as influence, comes to the smaller. Just like the look at the solar system, the same is replicated into the atom. So the same thing happens. We have the matrix, the constellations that are around us, the stars, the heap of stars. They're the matrix of energy for their signs, but they are imprinted onto our Earth as a smaller, more, how do I say, more local zodiac, which is the tropical zodiac. The tropical zodiac, because it is based, it's the same signs again, the same order, the same influences, but the big constellations, they influence the big things in life. Every 2,000 years, the big ages, that are happening, and it takes 26,000 years for a whole age, for the whole 12 signs ages to go through humanity. So you see, life moves in cycles, but the smaller cycles in one's life, the smaller events in life are ruled by the tropical zodiac, which is the same as the sidereal, but it's based on the relationship of our Earth to our Sun, the Earth and the Sun, because it's based on the movement of how we see the movement of the Sun and the relationship of the Earth. It's based basically like on the seasons. It's very much based on the seasons. So always on the spring, the tropical zodiacs in the west, which we're using, starts with Aries. No matter if the constellation behind is Pisces, like it's now, or will be Aquarius, we'll always have Aries sign. These are signs. These are the constellations at the backdrop. But the sign that we're having, the Western one that we're using, is always going to be Aries on the first day of spring. The first day of summer will always be Cancer. The summer will be in the summer. The sun will be rising from the northern part. If this is the horizon, you're looking every morning through the window. When you sing, what you sing through your window. In the first day of spring, you'll see the sun here. In the first day of summer, you'll see the sun much more to the north. And this would mean the most north the sun would go as relative to the Earth is when Cancer starts. And the day and when the days are short in the northern hemisphere is when Capricorn is, when the sun goes most to the south. And it's always going to be this in the Western zodiac. The signs always stay the same. If you're born on the first of the day of the winter, you're already Capricorn. And now in the sidereal zodiac, actually Sagittarius constellations that you see at the backdrop. But while we're still in the West, we're saying Capricorn, it is the sign of Capricorn. Because why is this? Why do we take this? Because, as I said, the sun is that gives and generates life for our solar system. The stars are okay, the stars are far away, they organize, they make those 12 energies of the constellations, the zodiac. They're the primal elemental zodiac, but they're imprinted onto our solar system, and they're like transformed through the energies of our sun because they're too powerful, and they need to be transformed through our local star. What is the point to look at our relationship of the Earth towards the other stars when we have our own star? Our own star will influence the most what's happening on Earth. All the life depends on it, on our own star. So that's why the sun determines when will be the start of the zodiac for the Earth, for planet Earth. And I'm sorry if I'm confusing you. I've made a lot of diagrams here. And the sun translates the constellations and the energy of the constellations through the seasons, through the seasons on our Earth. When spring comes, Aries, and why is always measured towards the North Pole? Because the North Pole is like the upper part of the body. Imagine if the Earth is a human being or is a living being, the North Magnetic Pole will be like upper face, and that's why it's always measured through where the North Magnetic Pole is. This is where the measure is. While in the southern magnetic pole, it will be the opposite. In the first day of summer here will be the first day of winter for them, and this is when the energies of Capricorn are not the energies of Capricorn for the north, energies of coldness, of more withdrawal, of coolness, detachment. But in the south, Capricorn, it's not the same. Capricorn, for them, they celebrate the summer starting, but we always measure the meaning of the stars and the arrangements of the signs, the arrangement of the signs according to the north, wherever the north is, the north magnetic pole is pointing, because of the earth is like a human being with its own chakra systems. And so we said the big constellations are measurements for the big ages. The constellations, the real stars, with them we define the big ages in human history. Like we're starting soon the age of Aquarius. But with the tropical zodiac, which is like an imprint of the big constellations on our earth, like a local small zodiac around us, it influences the life of people, the personalities of people, the events in life, political, worldly, anything that is happening locally on the earth. This is measured through tropical astrology. That's why tropical astrology will describe your character much better. That's why the signs correspond in tropical astrology corresponds to the season according to the northern hemisphere, and I explained to you why according to the northern hemisphere. And in the western and in the eastern zodiac, it's not true. It's not true, but they don't longer correspond because the constellations are moving very slowly. Very slowly. One sign for 2,000 years changes, but in the western astrology, they always stay according to the seasons, so if you're using astrology to look at what's going to happen to one human being, to his life, to see personality, to see if you're compatible with someone, what is to come into your life, what's to come into the political, what's to come for the polls, for the, what's the when they're choosing a party or president, all these things are looked from the tropical, seasonal based zodiac, which is based on the relationship between the sun and the earth. It's our local zodiac, as I said, and the constellations are used only for the big ages, and I'm gonna make a special video to describe to you what the age of Aquarius means. So please don't poo-poo either of the zodiacs. They're both true. Just the constellational ones, it's much more powerful, but it's much more abstract for us. It rules the big eras, while the sun, our solar zodiac, our tropical zodiac, based on the relationship between our own star, not the other big stars, not the other big heaps of constellations. It puts the beginning of the zodiac always on the first day of March, on the first day of spring. 21st of March always starts with Aries, and from there on the signs follow. So tropical astrology is true. Don't poo-poo it. It's not the constellations that's different at the back, but this is a small local zodiac that is anchored on the earth, that is transformed through the solar energies, and given those the big energies of the stars are imprinted onto our solar system through our own sun. It's a bit abstract, it sounds a bit too philosophical, but this is what through my research for 8-9 years, I found out through esoteric schools and through seers, through the ancient, through their knowledge, how they observe, how they see with their third eye things to be. So I personally don't have my third eye open, but it makes so much more sense. So thank you so much. So please share what are your thoughts on that as well?